Now carry on your intro.
Okay, first of
Carry
all,
on.
I'd say hello to CIA, Mossad, and the IDF.
Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum, brothers and sisters. We forgive you for all you've done. And yeah. Yeah, so me and Lola were over there in September.
All you will do.
In September, and I don't know about Lola, but it's something probably since before you were born. I've always had an interest in Palestine and what's going on there, and actually being there reinforced everything that I thought about it, and it kind of changed my life just being in Bethlehem, because I kind of lost track with my spirituality, and then I refound it. I was brought up Catholic. Anyway, I've been like actually like compared to you and the people in Gaza, it's nothing, but I've been like traumatized by everything that's happening, and also obsessed and watching it every day too much. Like it's making me ill, you know. And we've been trying to get communication with people in Bethlehem, but we found it difficult to get a regular just to talk to people, and just we talk to a football team, and we found it difficult. I don't know if people are afraid of Mossad or the CIA or or maybe we're doing something wrong. But anyway, it's great to meet you, and I love that little 5 minutes. That was really nice. Really nice to meet you. I think that's it. Lola can add anything else.
I'll fill in. Yeah. Well, because we were going to have a talk. We were going to meet you in Ida Camp, and you were going to show us around, and then it didn't work out. But we were all there at the same. We were obviously there at the same time. Yeah, and then since it was just a very, very profound week, and we did make really great, like just so fluid connections with people. Like, every day we would meet just new, fascinating, great people, and we were kind of documenting stuff and wanting to maybe make some documentary. It's so hard to think about before, you know, October 7th, and then October 7th, and then since then, yeah, we've just tried to be in touch with everyone that we met there, and I think you say we haven't had regular communication. I think it has been. I mean, it's been sporadic, but it has been sustained in some way. I mean, there's just a few key figures, like a youth football team, boys of like 12 and 13, that we just serendipitously met when we were there, and we ended up shooting video of them, and we turned it into a video like since then. But it was on Martin's heart because he is like loves football and has a son of the same age, and so it was just very much on his heart to like support these boys as something just tangible to do, whether it means like getting them a football tour in Europe, or we're not quite sure what it looks like. But yeah, finding out the needs of the team, and obviously it's been ever evolving as the situation has been changing. And we just recently found out that the team is like, some kids can't go to the team because of the economic situation, and they're no longer able to do training. And we're trying to find out the details from the coach. He's a like Greek Orthodox guy from he lives just off Manger Square, but it's just quite difficult to find out exactly what's happening with this team. And then another individual is who Martin really bonded with was Baha Hilo, who I know that you know as well. And then there was a girl called Mariam that we met. She worked at the Waldorf Hotel, and that was, first we were talking to her quite a bit, and then less, and then I sort of resurrected a bit of communication with her. So yeah, just in total. And then there's one other guy we met at the Citadel called Nadim, and we're trying to find out his situation. So just these individuals that we met, and then we've tried to keep up with ever since. But yeah, it's had its challenges, and that's what. But yeah, that's where we're at really. But yeah.
Maybe you should explain how long you've been in Bethlehem, and how you ended up living in the camp, and just what your daily life's like, or what you're doing there. Is that okay? Just because I don't know.
Yeah, and it has changed since Lola and I met almost 8 months ago. Lola and I had a drink on October 6th.
On October 6th, we met and had a drink on October 6th.
Wow.
Yeah. So
the evening of October 6th, how surreal! It's so surreal. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am a PhD candidate from Princeton Seminary, and I moved here just over 3 years ago to Bethlehem to do research on experiences of disability under occupation, especially in Bethlehem for my fieldwork. And there are two organizations that I worked most closely with. One of them is here in IDACAMP, called NOOR, Center for Women's Empowerment, and for people with disabilities. So about 7 months into my time in Bethlehem, they invited me to move into their guest house, which had been empty really since COVID. The way this organization works is they teach cooking classes to foreigners, and they do homestays for foreigners in IDACAMP as a way of fundraising for the services for the kids with disabilities. So I think it's an excellent model of combining interests and needs and opportunities. So a lot of unemployed or underemployed mothers who want to work, and teaching cooking classes is a culturally acceptable form of using their skills to earn something of a living for themselves and their family, as well as supporting the center. So my research on them has basically argued that the empowerment has been for people with disabilities, as well as the kids with disabilities, as well as the adult women, many of whom have physical disabilities of their own. Whether they identify with that or not is another topic. Many of those are related to the occupation in some way. I can go more and more on my research, and another aspect of it is how the occupation produces disability, and whether and how tear gas, when pregnant women are exposed to tear gas, that affects their pregnancies. It seems, in short, the answer is the stress of living in IDACAMP can have negative effects on pregnancy and fetuses, and which can lead to disabilities like cerebral palsy, which is the most common disability here.
I mean, I would
zoom
love
back
to,
out. Other reasons I'm here now,
I would love to talk to you for
Go
hours
ahead,
about
you can-
everything, but maybe you could just
I
tell us
know,
about
me
your
too.
day. I mean, how was your day today?
yes. Now my day is not as exciting as it used to be, but typically I spend my mornings writing my dissertation, which is just about done.
What's it
And in
about?
the afternoons, I go and teach at Bethlehem University and Bethlehem Bible College. Yeah,
Oh, up on the hill.
go ahead.
You go up to the hill next to
You've
the.
heard of them?
That's where we met the team. They're called Cilician FC,
That's what we meant before.
and it was on the road to the university up the hill. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Main road.
And is there?
Yeah, about a 15-minute walk from here.
Excuse me I'm really not sure if I sound flippant or I get the right tone, because it's really difficult to know how to speak, and it's been a problem constantly. But how is it at night time? Is there raids? Is there someone said it's the most tear gas place in the world. Is that true?
Yeah, I'll take that question first, and then come back to the nighttime one. There was a study conducted by, I think, University of California in Berkeley, maybe 2016. I can send you this, that made the claim that it is the most tear gassed place in the world, and that is the academic basis for that fun fact. That was before some pretty significant raids and protests in Paris and other places. There's been a lot of tear gas now in other places in the West Bank also. So obviously that's a pretty difficult thing to quantify.
Yeah.
But it's got to be up there.
Yeah. Have you ever,
It's got to be up there.
have you ever
Yeah.
suffered? Because I've heard from friends in
You
Chile and
saw
Santiago.
that.
I've heard it's really bad. Like,
Oh.
but I've never
Um,
experienced tear gas. But what is it like?
Yeah, I have only experienced the dissipated tear gas. So
Right.
I pointed out the protest site, and you might have noticed there's kind of a downhill into IDACAMP. So a lot of the tear gas wafts into Ida Camp. So it's no longer a big cloud. It's just diffuse. You can't see it, but you can smell it. And that's the extent of my exposure.
Okay.
It's like flown over my head a couple times. That's another story. I was in the wrong spot at the wrong time. But,
Oh yeah, they sell them in the gift shop.
haven't
The
gotten
little
it. I
canisters.
haven't gotten the worst of it. Yeah,
I remember.
yeah. Turned into jewelry.
Mm.
You know.
So what about
Um,
the question about the raids at night, at nighttime?
Raids at night. Yes. After October 7th, those really heated up. Prior to October 7th, they happened maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, usually in the middle of the night, every once in a while during the day. But after October 7th, it was more like every night for a while, for a few times a week, and just arresting probably dozens of people from Ida Camp. Some have been released. A lot of them are minors.
Yeah.
A lot are still, including, I think, maybe the director of the Ida Youth Center. I know a handful who have been released, but a lot are
The
not.
director? It wasn't Mohammed, was it?
But now it seems that
That's a different one, right? That's different.
Okay.
Ida Youth Center.
Okay, yeah.
you might be thinking of Laji Mohammed. What's his name?
Mm.
Abu Surur, Mohammed Abu Surur. No, that's somebody else. Yeah.
Mm.
I can check on the names if it's of interest
No,
for you.
no.
But now, as far as I can tell, the raids are kind of back to pre-October 7th levels of every once in a while, but I don't hear it. I think maybe every week or 2 weeks something goes on. Yeah.
And how can you just encapsulate
That's my
like
guess.
the kind of the feeling of people like currently right in this moment, like both in broader Bethlehem and also specifically in Ida Camp?
Yeah. There's a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
One is, I think on the surface, there's a kind of numbness of, it's been almost 8 months of this uncertainty and fear of, like, people feel really close to people of Gaza, but also more and more divided. In certain ways, life is carried on as normal, despite the war and genocide. School still meets, restaurants are still open, people still get married at this point. They didn't for a while. So there's some guilt about that and awkwardness. There's also fear, especially in the rest of the West Bank, but Bethlehem is probably the safest part of the West Bank. The villages are dealing with more settler violence and settler, land grabs. Is really what it is. Terrorist attacks, yes. But the city of Bethlehem itself is pretty insulated from that, but there's growing fear that what's happened in like Ramallah could happen here also. You maybe saw that there was a fire in the market that many attributed to the IDF, I think last week.
Yeah, on Sunday, yeah, I seen that.
So a lot of uncertainty, fear, numbness, guilt. Yeah.
One tactic I think they've been using, which everybody uses to control people, is this kind of divide and conquer or control people. And I even seen it within the Ida camp. It seemed to be like the people weren't unified, and this is what they need to be, like some kind of unification or solidarity between everyone, like all the different religions, all the different people who are getting, maybe they're getting charity from the UN, or maybe they're getting help from somewhere else. And it seemed to be they were divided. Now, do you see any coming together of the people, some kind of unification?
Good question.
Good question.
I don't know if I've seen that. It's not to say it's not there, but the tensions and the scarcity mentality do continue.
Yeah, it's sad
I could
because
say
the
that
people
the
need to get together.
society gets some criticism for not helping people without disabilities.
Yeah.
Or families of people who don't have people with disabilities, and that just speaks to the lack of resources. I haven't seen a big unity or unification at this point.
This is why I'm going to jump. I'm sorry to jump around the place, but there's this Nelson Mandela figure that they say could bring the people together. His name's Marwan Barwadi or something. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Marguti.
Marguti. And so
yeah, I do.
But even the people I've spoken to, they're divided. He even divides opinion, but he's the one man that if they could get him out, he might be able to bring some kind of unification and some kind of peace. Because he said he was always for peace, you know?
Yeah. Can send you some stuff on Marwan Barghouti if you're interested. My view is it does seem that he could unify Fatah and Hamas. He has enough supporters from both of them. That's a pretty huge divide here.
Yeah.
He is in jail, I believe, or prison, I believe, for killing Israelis. So
But there's no
depending
evidence.
on one's views of that, yeah, no evidence. Yeah, we could debate that too.
Yeah.
I often hear foreigners say that Palestinians need a unified somebody to rally behind, and that will kind of solve it for them. I personally am not convinced by that. I'm not an expert on these other liberation movements that have had that, but it just seems that that's just not how I would describe the issue at this point.
Well, any kind of light or glimmer
lack
of
of leadership is a problem.
it seems hopeless and almost unbearable. And I can't believe what it'd be like for you to be there, because I'm physically like paralyzed somehow. And even within my own family, like my brother's an academic, my sister has an art gallery, and everyone seems to be I call it the Zionist coin, which is probably racist, but everybody, even my close relatives, are dependent on their livelihoods, and they're afraid to speak out. And do you understand what I'm getting at? Like, this is a big problem. People are afraid.
Yeah.
Globally.
I think trauma has to do with, I've heard a lot of foreigners describe this as a traumatic event, and they've been confused by how they could be traumatized when they're nowhere near Gaza. I think trauma has to do with what happens, as well as the meaning you make out of it and how you can respond to it. So an advantage for me in being here is that everyone around me has a similar view of the tragedy of the situation. So that helps me make meaning of it and accept that meaning. And I'm also free to express myself wherever I go. So I can respond in more natural, free ways than I think people abroad can.
Do you have some kind of protection, or aren't you? Is there? I'm sure apparently there's surveillance. It's the most under surveillance place in the world. Aren't you afraid of that? Isn't there? You seem quite comfortable speaking out.
Yeah, I do pretty much everything over WhatsApp and Zoom. I don't do Facebook or Instagram and stuff. That seems how people get caught or get flagged. And as far as I know, they don't have flags on me, so they're not going to like try to hack my email.
Can I just ask when we're talking about the hopelessness of the situation, where do you find hope? Like, where do you see flickers of hope? And also the other part of the question is, if it's not unity that you see, like as the thing, like people unifying as a way to move forward, what is it that you see as a way to move forward?
Yeah.
And are those things like,
I think the source of hope for me and for many right now is that everything is up in the air right now. Everything can change. You know, if somebody else could enter the war, that could change everything. U.S. now there's a real serious conversation about suspending arms deals to Israel. That wasn't happening even 2 years ago. It's been a growing conversation, but that's even a medium term, maybe even short term possible change. But in the long term, the current generation of youth is watching what's happening in Gaza, just like my parents' generation watched intifadas and thought Palestinians were all terrorists. So long term, Israel is not going to enjoy the same level of popular default support that it has. That's just gone. So
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of organizing around the world. Yeah, we just don't know.
The
It could
whole,
change, and it could theoretically create an appetite for Israelis to seek peace. It seems to be hardening their hearts and doing the opposite. But
but it's divided
it's
down the
just hard to
middle. I
say.
think it's seems to be like 50-50.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers. I think if it's 50-50, that's very different from pre-October 7th.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's a lot more Israelis sympathetic to Palestinians.
Mm. And
Yeah.
what was spoken of? What was the main sort of thing spoken of at the conference? I mean, I felt, yeah, as I expressed to you before, like I felt called to go, and I was also, we were both considering coming, and then it didn't like work out. But yeah, what was the kind of the main, would summarize the main sort of sentiment of those voices of faith in the conference?
Yeah. Yeah. The keynote speakers were, I don't think they would disagree. Not groundbreaking. No, this idea that the church has failed to reject genocide was one theme. Many have accepted the genocide going on, and that is to our shame. A lot of the workshops focused on liberation theology in different ways. So look, different ways to read scripture and think about organizing and responding to injustice. But I think what most people most appreciated from the conference was the sense of community it provided, the sense of I'm not alone in what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Many people feel isolated wherever they're coming from, and usually all over. There was a delegation from South Africa, people from Europe, a lot from the US, from the UK too. So somebody used the phrase communal grief. And I think that's what was most valuable for the attendees, to grieve together.
And are you still working with the NOR group? I mean, I kind of forgot. It didn't hit me quite like so much when you spoke about it before. When I just was just researching the work of NOR, and I don't know, it just really touched me when I was reading about it again, and just that whole inquiry into disability and under occupation. I think it's really interesting. Are you still working with them, or how are they right now? Like, how are the and how is your thought around this idea, like thing of, the topic of disability and under occupation? How has that sort of changed and evolved like since October 7th and everything's happened trauma wise?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's like many questions on one. Sorry.
Yeah, I always forget one of your questions, so you can always ask again if you want. But I am still in relationship with the people of NOR. Mostly what I was doing before was teaching English classes, and since October 7th, there have been no tourists, which means almost no cooking classes, which means almost no need for English or motivation to learn it. So that's mostly on pause, but I still see people socially, and we hang out and all. Last night I helped with a cooking class, and when I have friends around, I bring them to NOR. So they're doing okay. The center is giving fewer services now, budget cuts. It's difficult economically. That's, as you probably know, the main challenge here in Bethlehem that is so dependent on tourism. My thoughts on disability. Yeah, a little bit after October 7th, I felt almost embarrassed about my dissertation and research because it seems so totally irrelevant in light of what's happening in Gaza now. So it was too late for me to really change. I couldn't obviously do ethnographic work in Gaza at this point. So I've accepted it, and I'm going to move on with the data I have and the analysis I have. And it's at least a good timestamp and a testament to what's happening in the West Bank. But the first person in Gaza to die of starvation was a person with celiac. So the aid food coming in was not all accessible, and that's something that people don't think about a lot, but it was an early cause of death. You can think about being ordered to evacuate from the north and have to go to the south, walking 10 miles. Well, if you use a wheelchair, that's pretty difficult. If you have any sort of chronic disease, it's pretty difficult. If you need cancer treatments of any kind, that's not happening. There's just a variety of ways. I used to call them downstream consequences of the occupation, but now in Gaza, it's not really far downstream. It's pretty obvious once you start thinking about it for people with disabilities. You know, what 70, 80,000 people injured, in addition to 35, 36,000 killed. So that's like what percentage of the population? I don't know, 5, 2 million.
Have you ever been there?
2.5, 3% now disabled.
You've never been there, right?
I have.
Oh, wow.
I have. I got back 2 years ago, 2 days ago. Yeah, I was looking at my pictures. It popped up. I was working for an NGO at the time that had partner organization working in Gaza that was able to give us invitations. Yeah.
And what, you spent a few days there?
Oh no, you go. Sorry.
Yeah, I spent 3 days, 2 nights.
Right.
Really just touring around, meeting some activists, different organizations, and got to see all of Gaza, which is a treat. Surprise, it's actually beautiful. Like the coastline is gorgeous. So, it's like that version of Gaza is gone now. I wish I could hold on to my memories better. That makes sense. Just like I wish I had seen Bethlehem before they created the wall to just know what it looked like, how it felt to be able to walk to Rachel's tomb or walk to those olive fields across the wall. Go sit, have a picnic there, but now it's hard to imagine. It's sad that people now who go to Gaza won't know what it was like before. And what I saw was already pretty destroyed, parts of it also.
And are you going to be, how does the future look for you? Are you just going to stay in, do you imagine living in Bethlehem for many years, or do you have a plan, or?
I have a plan to stay here until December of this year. Okay. And after that, my visa expires and I'm not sure what will happen, but I should have teaching opportunities over the summer and into the fall. I'll be done with my PhD by September.
Is that a 3-year visa?
Hopefully look for other. It's 1 year renewable.
But what about that role in the East Jerusalem Church? Any developments on that?
Funny, I was just with the interim pastor, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's really for me to be like an expat pastor. Not really what gets me going here. I think they have a preference to hire a Palestinian, which, if possible, I would support. They're kind of figuring out their goals for the position actually this week, and I think after they have more of those conversations, we could talk if I'm a good fit or not. But, yeah.
And
I'm on the fence.
Any advice for us in terms of like keeping communication with these kind of people that I mentioned, and they're sort of quite difficult to, we have this dream of like helping support these boys, but really like logistically we are struggling on like the very early obstacles, and even the basic like trying to communicate with them, like we don't speak we have no Arabic, and yeah, we're just trying to overcome these initial obstacles of like trying to find out what and how we can support. But we did like a t-shirt with a designer, and we raised like a small amount of money, and we want to put it, we've just got it there, and we want to kind of use it to support these boys, but of course first we need to find out what they need. So yeah, do you have any like advice on that? Like we're not linked to any charity or organization or anything, it's just us, and like a WhatsApp group with these boys, and yeah, that's all we've got at the moment. but
That's
we,
funny to
yeah.
image. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, let's see. Zooming out a bit, it's helped me to think of communication with Palestinians a little bit like a market. You can imagine people are always coming and going, coming and going. A lot of times they come, they go, they don't come back. So Palestinians are very welcoming. They love connecting with people, but then there's just tons of people they've met who
Yeah, I've
have
noticed
left, and it's
there's a
maybe
cut off.
hard to remember.
They ask you, do you
Yeah.
live here? Are you staying here? And then when you say you don't, it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
Mm.
So the best way to stay in touch is to come back again.
yeah, there you go.
I hate to say it. I know that's hard, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just means so much to people.
It means so much to people, right?
And-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
In terms of the fundraiser too, this is I don't mean to be crass, but a lot of times when Palestinians give gifts to each other, it is in the form of cash, like weddings, engagements, other occasions. That's kind of standard. So you could consider making a cash donation to these boys and letting them spend that as they see fit, if you are comfortable or open to that. A lot of times what people need is like spending money, or I don't know. You could also designate it. Yeah. Just
Well,
my first thought on that.
that's exactly right. I mean, it's you've hit the nail on the head there, I think. Like,
Mm.
it's hard to be
Just so you know, it's like for me as an American, that was always weird. If you like give somebody cash or a gift card or something, that's like not a good gift. But culturally here, it's normal enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rebecca was like,
Yeah.
Rebecca, yeah, my friend was like, I had to go to a wedding in Ramallah and was like, and yeah, she was like, how much cash do I bring? Like, she had to bring, like, everyone's bringing cash, just
Yeah.
cash gifts to the wedding in Ramallah. She's like, how much do I
Yeah.
bring? Crazy. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Simpler. You just go to the bank, get some cash. But
Yeah. Yeah. And what about just like any communication that just feels a bit stuck, like and just in terms of keeping up dialogue and stuff with people? I mean, it is valuable, right? Yeah.
We
Sorry,
wanted to
you
talk
go.
to the kids, but I think we can't talk down. The kids have all got phones, which my son's 12, he doesn't have a phone, but then there's a manager, and then if we wanted to like get a conversation going with one of the kids, it seems difficult because first of all, the language, although a lot of the kids speak good English, but second of all, how does it go with like security and the parents, and are they afraid? And I get the impression that people are afraid to speak. Is that right?
Yeah. No, I was talking to somebody on Sunday who's here with a tour group with Sabeel, this Christian liberation theology organization. And he's pretty aware of these issues and pretty sympathetic to violent resistance. And he was saying, why is everyone just talking about loving your enemies and nonviolent, peaceful protests, all this stuff? Like, do Palestinians not want? Is that like actually reflective of Palestinians? And we both kind of agreed that no, not necessarily. That's just what people feel comfortable saying. So yes, there's definitely an awareness when talking to foreigners that you might have nefarious motives, and frankly, for them, just talking to somebody about what's happening, if it's things that you could just find on the news, it's not going to be very interesting to them. So it's only risk, no potential gain.
Yeah, there's nothing in
Yeah.
it. Why? That's the thing. There's why? What do we tell the kids? Because there's nothing in it for them unless we give them cash, which just seems really cold. So they'll be like, well, why would I talk to these people? I mean,
Yeah.
I always feel like it's almost like voyeuristic, and also it's like a voyeuristic kind of trauma touristic, like you do a tour of the Ida camp. It seems like something doesn't sit right in my head with that,
Yeah.
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 And how do you get around this sort of problem?
Unless I always encourage people. Yeah. Another option could be to develop a partnership with one of the NGOs, like Youth of Ida or Laji or Rawad, and you can make a designated gift to them, and they'll probably correspond with you in a more professional manner, which is less based on personal friendship, but just shared interests. So
I think
you could
that's kind of
support one of their
Martin's goal,
too.
like was more like that personal element. It was like, and creating like, that's why he's been documenting this whole process. Like since being in Bethlehem in September, every day you've kind of been documenting it and capturing it and posting it. And like, it's been a whole kind of creative documentation of everything. And I guess your hope would be to, you know, to support these boys, but document the whole process and make like an artful piece of work from it. And so I think that yeah, that's also part of it. So even though we understand the cold exchange, it's like what you want to do is actually is kind of warm and intimate and personal, and right.
Also, I
Martin,
think
is
it's
that right?
important. I mean, people are like, a lot of people say to me, what are you doing? There's
Yeah.
no help. You can't do anything to help these people. You're wasting your time. And it's hopeless. And this hopelessness, I don't know. Sometimes I'll be like 3 days like doing stuff, and then I'll hit a block and I won't do anything. But it makes me, I think it is worthwhile to just even everything, every little small, even a post on Instagram, like what I've been told is that they do appreciate it, and it does help. The long picture of one day, like maybe in 2 years, maybe in 10 years, the situation gets better, you know, but you can't just give up. You can't, because Israel won't stop unless they're stopped. I don't think they're going to stop.
Yeah. If and when Netanyahu is removed, there could be a new Israel, but getting to that point will be difficult, and things could frankly get worse. Also, yeah.
So I know we have like less than 1 minute left. I mean, 1 minute left. Yeah.
On the Zoom thing?
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time,
Yeah.
Kevin. Thank you so much. I hope we can speak regularly.
If you'd be
My
open to
pleasure.
speaking again, we would love to. Yeah.
Yeah. Happy to help however I can. If you want more connections here or help following up with someone, I'd be glad to do that also.
I'd love to speak to you again really soon.
Yeah, maybe
if
more
that's
questions will
possible.
start it.
Yeah. I do have more time now if we want to create a new link, if that would be helpful, or we could reschedule or schedule again. Yeah.
I'm happy to continue.
What do you think, Martin?
I'm happy to continue, yeah.
Okay. Can we do maybe like, would you be happy to do like 20 minutes more? Just because I haven't eaten. I think I should go. Yeah, I don't want it to go past that time.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, you should eat, and I'll go eat then also. So yeah, 20 more minutes. Call it at, what time is it for you? Like 6? Almost 6?
We can do 20 minutes more. Do you want to do 20 minutes more? And then we pause.
Perfect.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.